Hey, I'm Jack Maxwell. Welcome to Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're watching this. It's called Jack's Place Virtual Cocktail Hour for a reason. We have a drink and a chat and a lot of stuff in between. Salute to America, 244 years young. Wow. A lot of turmoil going on right now. Fight for what you believe in and vote on November 3rd. That's it. Let's move on to the fun stuff. What the F? What did what was that post I did? I said fun, friends, family, facts, food. There was a bunch of F's in there. There were more. I had to cut it down because you're going to say, what does all that mean? I wasn't trying to be clever with the alliteration, with all the F's, but there's so much to talk about. So let's just take one of them. Face. Okay, so see this right here? A lot of people ask me, oh, come on, that's not really what you look like. What do you really look like? You have makeup and powder. Nothing. This is what I look like, for better or worse. Maybe I should use makeup. It's not that I haven't put some powder on from time to time, depending on what we're shooting and where, but there's a very specific reason I'm just showing you me, because we're going to have a guest on later on who's going to tell us all about Hollywood and filmmaking and everything else. Lori Parker, hello from Miami. Hello, Lori. Hey, Shane, what's happening? Hey, Jack, he says. I say, hey, Shane. So, red wine in Toronto. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I usually say, what are you drinking? So let us know. So, face, real, that's it. I'm not bragging one way or the other. I'm just saying that sometimes you don't know what's real. You're watching something on television or film, and you understand, because you're an intelligent being, that that's probably not real. There's some CGI. There are lighting tricks they use, things like that. I don't. I'm just here. I do have a light. I have a ring light that helps you see me. But I wanted to just go au natural. And as a matter of fact, I want to show you something. See this here? I do that because I want to dress up and look decent for you. But the reality is this. See this? I'm wearing shorts because it's more comfortable. And I'm in Phoenix and it's 111 degrees. But this, well, there's a certain persona I'm trying to give off today, because I have a guest who's a friend of mine. And he's just such a good guy, and I just wanted this to be a memorable show for everybody. So that's the face part. The film part. He's a filmmaker. He's so smart, too. He's also a friend, so that's another F. Knowing him a long time, you're going to hear his very unique and fun, interesting, and smart story. What a good guy. And we're going to do some self-promotion also, because I was in a film that he did that's going to be coming out soon. So that food, we could talk about food. What did you eat for the 4th of July? That's another F. What did you drink? Did you have some fun? Did you see fireworks? More F's all over the place. And facts. Facts are really important, right? We're going to tell you the truth on this show. And it's not even a show. It's just a little thing I do. But I don't like to bullshit people. I don't like to. What you see is what you get. You're going to ask me anything. I have a producer named Yusef. Yusef, put yourself on right here so they can see you. We're going to show you everything behind the curtain. This is Yusef.
Behind the scenes.
And as you know, Ken is my producer normally, but he's out of town. So Yusef's doing the job. What are you drinking, pal? What do you got?
You know what? We figured out that you could mix seltzer instead of soda water and make a mojito out of it. So I've got a seltzer hito without naming a particular brand.
So that's right. Not until they start paying for this show. Although my drink, I'm going to have to tell you, I'm going to have to name the brand, and I'll tell you why in a couple of minutes. But thank you for doing what you do, Yusef. So I told him if there's any interesting question, even if it's controversial, you want to make fun of me, you want to say something, he's going to put it up anyway, and I'm going to deal with it head on, because there are some things you might want to know about a show I used to do called Booze Traveler. If you've ever looked me up on IMDb, I've done a little television film here and there. But anything you want to know about my personal life, I told you I had cancer, still do in a sense, because it's a blood disease, stays with you all the time. I went through chemo. I discovered medicinal cannabis and THC, and that's a show I do called The High Road. Fridays, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, with a live Q&A like this, then a show, and then an interview. If you're interested in that, you can catch that as well. So ask me anything and say anything, or almost anything, is what I said. We have to edit it somehow. We don't want to offend people. And what are you drinking tonight, by the way? I'm going to tell you what I have. This here is a whiskey and ginger. Mark Sneed, hey, Jack, Aviation Gin and Tonic in the Colorado Rockies. Salute. Good stuff, Mark. I have whiskey and ginger martini for Callie Mitchell. But this whiskey is High West, is the name of the brand. Why did I say that? Only for one reason. I mean, they were really nice people. We filmed them on the show. They're up in Park City, Utah. And they were great. We did it in an old saloon. It was really nice. But a friend of mine who's become a friend, we found each other on social media, but he's a good guy. His name is Jonathan. And he sent me some stuff. He makes homemade honey and sent me some gin and this whiskey, High West. And I appreciate it. And so I want to say salute. And oddly enough, he sent me a private message or direct message. I forget which one. Right before the show saying he's going to check it out. So this is to you and your family, Jonathan. Thanks again. Susan Stanford says, I love the High Road. Very informative. Well, yeah, actually, here's the thing. Just like on Booze Traveler, I never said I was an expert. I love to see the world and visit different places and meet people and explore cultures. But I was never a drink expert. Never. I never said I was. Don't pretend to be. Same with the High Road. I think it's much more important to learn as you go and then to share that with you as I'm learning. If I went everywhere on earth and knew everything already because I studied so hard, because I wanted to impress you, well, what's the point of that, really? It's the discovery that you see happen right in front of you. That's fun for me. That's why when we did Booze Traveler and when we do the High Road, it's all real. If I drank something on Booze Traveler, I promise you, I really did drink it in real life. As good or as bad as it might be. Yes, they really gave me $600,000 scotch in Scotland at the McAllen Estate. Sorry, I was trying to read this. Carrie, hey Jack, Jose Silver and Diet 7-Up. Cheers. Cheers to you, Carrie. I like that. Diet 7-Up. Does that give it a different taste? Probably. But same with the High Road. If we do something, and I say it's for the first time, it really is. There's no good in doing a show, reality, docudrama, whatever you want to call it, and putting my name on it unless it's real. You know, there are a lot of shows that, I hate to use this word, pretend to be real, that are not. So wherever we went, we never used actors. I really drank the stuff. Sometimes I regretted it the next day, sometimes as soon as a couple of minutes later, but it was the joy of my life to be able to do that show. And same with the High Road for a different reason. That's a domestic series only. And we shot it here in the United States is what that means. And it was my discovery of all the people that I could possibly meet and listen to all the stories that I could hear about people who might not have been cannabis consumers until they discover the medicinal benefits of such, or a friend told them, or a son told them, or a daughter or a husband, or the medical community, which are opening their eyes to it. So that's what the High Road is. And again, it's the last time I'll say it. It's Friday nights, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. And we call it the High Road to show you there's another way, to be open-minded and to discover knowledge that you didn't know exist. I mean, to educate yourself is so important. It's the truth is power. And I think that the more you open your mind to things that maybe you discounted immediately before, the better your life will be. I've certainly found that. It's because that's the root of prejudice. We're prejudging something for no reason other than it's different than us, or we were told to prejudge it. I think we're shutting off so many possibilities. To live in the moment is very important. And that's what you do. Judge it for what it is right in front of you, how it behaves, how it acts, how it, the import it plays in your life, how it can enhance you and make you better. You might find things aren't exactly what they seem. So here you go. Here's to that. What was that last comment? Yusuf, I missed it. Victoria Garcia. Hey, Jack, my question for you is, what's the best experience you've had on Booze Traveler and the worst? Good question. I get it a lot. It's really hard to say the best experience, because do you mean the best drinking experience, the best emotional experience, the best physical experience that got my heart racing the most touching thing? I went to Sicily. I met family that I knew I had that I never met, and they all were crying their eyes out because I got to bring my mother. That's probably the best experience from that particular point of view. Drilling a hole in Lake Baikal, which was frozen 6, 7, 8 feet thick. Drilling a hole in it and drinking vodka out of that was certainly the most unique drinking experience I ever had. But there were so many. If you go back and watch the episodes, and you want to talk about particular moments, you can bring them up and I'll describe them to you. But I could name 200 or 300, and we only have an hour on this show. There were so many things in Mongolia, to be with the nomads and being welcomed on their land, because I had to drink 3 bowls of either camel milk vodka in the Hungai Mountains, or 3 bowls of fermented mare's milk in the Gobi Desert. It was really fascinating, because you must immerse yourself into those cultures, which gave me an appreciation for letting my guard down and saying, okay, this is where we are. This is what we're doing. Just jump in. Don't just look over the side of it. Jump off the cliff and see what happens. You know, when I moved to Hollywood, 1996, because I wanted to be an actor, I'd done a few things where I was prior in Las Vegas, some theater, some television. I said, this is it, Hollywood or bust. So I come in, the very first piece of mail I receive in my mailbox is a card from my mother. God bless her. She's still around, thankfully. And the front of it said, with courage greater than your fear, leap into the unknown and you will soar. That's it. Just dive in. Trust yourself and your instincts. Your heart will tell you what's right. Most of the time. Shane, drinking some Cloud Candy by Mighty Squirrel from Waltham, Massachusetts, my home state. Wild turkey and ginger ale with lemon, Victor Landy. Hey, welcome back, Victor. Milk and Scotch, Tiger's Milk, says Joe. You know, in Turkey, they have a thing called raki, or raka is how they say it. And it's a clear liquid, anisette-based, and water is a clear liquid. You mix them both together, and they become milky, which is strange, right? Releases, emulsifies the oils, and they call that lion's milk. Every time I hear anything close, I think of that, because it was such a wonderful experience. And the very first episode of Booze Traveler. So there you go. So of all the F's, F, I'm into Bloody Mary, says Susan Stanford. Been checking them out when I travel. Cool. I know that there's something on Instagram, I think, that it's all about Bloody Marys and everywhere around the world. Hey, good idea, I guess. I like the thing before the Bloody Mary, the night before. That's the fun part. The Bloody Mary is just a little hair of the dog that takes off the edge from a pounding head. We love the sumo wrestling episode, says Dave Winstead. We have trouble finding that episode, though. Yes, I don't know where they are anymore. I'm not doing the show. Probably on Travel Channel's website, or on some. If anybody knows, please comment. Maybe Hulu, Amazon. I don't know where they might be. Certainly YouTube. But that was a lot of fun. And I could have very easily gotten squashed by the sumo wrestler. We really did that. The sensei said, take it easy on this guy, but he's going to really wrestle you. So I put on the mawashi and I ran into him. It's really like running into a wall. It was no different. He didn't move an inch. And then he played around with me a little bit, and I got so exhausted. Then he just flung me out of the ring. Oh, it was so fun, though, because I'll never have that experience ever again in my life, I'm sure. It was wonderful. And I didn't break a bone. So there you go. Beth Krenzer, rhubarb and ginger gin with seltzer. Refreshing, I bet. For those who missed it, I have a whiskey ginger myself. Jonathan, that's the guy. Thanks for the comment, Shaq. Lisa, that's his wife, is drinking mezquila. And I'm drinking a glass of Cabernet. See, that's the beautiful thing about stereotypes. You might think it was the other way around, that the wife would be drinking wine and the guy would be drinking hard liquor. But no, that's why I said earlier, try to be open-minded to all things and judge it only in the moment what's going on, not by the face of it or the color of it or the cover of it or the color of the skin. None of it. At least that's what I learned from traveling the world. Wanted to share that with you. Kiara, buonasera, just water today. I think it was a holiday yesterday. Yes, it was. Not the biggest drinking holiday, July 4th. I guess barbecues and some drinks for sure. I mean, but it's not like over the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas or New Year's, where people drink their faces off. So let me tell you about a friend. Best drink in Savannah, Georgia, says M, or asks M Gazaway. I love so many there. Really, it's so great. I went to the Pirate House and had Skull Crusher. That was a lot of fun, only because of the name and the experience. And we went downstairs where they used to Shanghai people. This is where that comes from. They would get people drunk upstairs, bring them downstairs, and there's a wall smashed, big hole in the wall, brick wall. They would walk them out there and put them on a ship. That's how they would Shanghai people. They were thought to be taken to Shanghai. And that's how they would conscript pirates. It's not as if they had auditions or something, or they said, hey, you want to be a pirate? It's great. You get an eye patch. If your eye gets poked out, you get a parrot. You get, if you don't have a hand, you get a hook. We'll get that at the secondhand store. All that stuff. We'll go on a ship and we'll have booty and plunder and pillage. No, they didn't. It was hard to say, let's go live on a boat for months and months and take over the world. So that's how they got pirates. And it was either that or walk the plank. So I think that experience in Savannah, Georgia is certainly one of the better ones I had there. And it was wonderful, really. Then we went to this nightclub where we had female impersonators. That was fun. And all that they do. Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. We walked around that. Oh, I missed that one. Put it up, user. Vodka and seltzer with grapefruit every day, all day. Really? You don't get sick of that? I mean, it sounds good and all, but see, I don't drink the same thing all the time because it's about the experience. My mood changes, what I'm thinking of, who I'm with. All of that makes a big impact on what I drink. Jim Beam on the rocks, budget friendly. Cheers, Scott. All right, well, let's get to my guest because he's fascinating. And he's a longtime friend of mine. Before you pull him up, Yusuf, let me tell these folks about him because I moved, like I said, to Hollywood in 1996. I was acting in Las Vegas. I'd done some things, and I decided I'm going to be an actor for real. I mean, I didn't have a white tiger, so I couldn't stay in Vegas. I didn't know magic tricks. Not really. A couple of little ones, but that's another subject for another time. And it was either New York or L.A. That's where the main acting was back then, although it's spread around now, of course. A lot of filming in other states, Louisiana, Atlanta, up in Vancouver, Canada. There's a lot of filming now, but a lot of states give tax credits, so it's spread out a bit. But back in the day, 1996, it was mostly either L.A. or New York. And can't go to New York. I hate the Yankees. I'm just kidding. New York's a fine place. But for me, it was L.A. was closer to where I was, and it's closer to here in Phoenix, where I am now. And I'm only in Phoenix because I just wrapped, as they say in the film world, chemo treatments. I'll be going back to L.A. soon as it opens up. So I went to L.A. and I met this guy who I'm going to introduce you to. And in a class, he was helping run the class, and I was in this class or workshop, rather, just a 4-week workshop. And he's super talented. Why he's never, I guess, why you don't know him is beyond me, because he's a great writer, director, actor. I mean, he could do so much, but he's also one of the best people I know. If I had to count on one hand the most loyal people I know in Hollywood, he would be on there. He would be one of those 5. But he's fantastically talented, and I get such joy out of bringing his work to life. He was, some of his credits. He was in Orgasmo, which, the guys from South Park, Matt and Trey, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, they did that movie. It wasn't one of their big hits. There are a couple of misses, but he was in that. He's done other things, of course, that you know him from. But I think his real passion is creating things that come from his own heart and his mind. And he did this movie called Walking the Walk. He wrote, directed, produced it, put it all together, and he even rapped in it. And he's really good, which doesn't surprise me because he's so talented and so very focused. He's disciplined when it comes to his health and going to the gym and all this stuff, but all for good reasons. He just loves doing what he does. And he also works in the mental health field, helping people do that. So he's a good guy on that side too. He's never wanted to be famous. He's just always wanted to create. And I admire him so much. We just did this movie, The Pragmatist, which we'll tell you about. He hosted a show called Film Nut, where he's a good host too. I mean, the guy, like I said, the guy can do anything. And everybody who I know who knows him really likes him. It sounds like he's paying me to say this, but this is really how I feel about the guy. He's a good guy, and I'm so honored to call him my friend. Say hello to Jeff Schubert.
Thank you very much, Jack. That was so wonderful, beautiful of you to say. there's an expression out there, and sometimes I sincerely feel this about you. And it's like you're my brother from another mother, because I feel like we're simpatico on so many levels and think the same way and take similar approaches to our work. Obviously, it manifests and expresses differently, but the foundation, you talked about meeting in an acting class. I was an assistant I was taking the class for free because I was kind of assistant running it, if you will. And I noticed right away in you someone who put what I like to call, and you've heard me say this to you a lot over the years, an athlete's mentality to the work of being an artist. Because a lot of artists won't work maybe as hard as they could or should towards their craft. They'll talk about the unfairness of it, the numbers game of it, how impossible it is and how hard it is. And in the meantime, they won't be focused on the things that they can control. And you, even in 1996, when you're just starting off, multiply that by how many years later, right? You paid attention to every detail. And that got my attention and respect right away, from how you dress, from taking control of your environment, the setting, props. You were very focused on every, singular detail. And, to this day, you were very humble and worked very hard. And that's a very winning combination.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's close this chapter of the Mutual Admiration Society and move on to the art itself. Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. Carrie says, "Hi, Jeff."
Hi,
so
Carrie.
let's talk about you, because this is you're my guest, and I'd like to. Good evening, Jeff, says Victor Landy. Oh, by the way, what are you drinking?
I am drinking hard pressed cider, and since they're not paying for sponsorship, I won't say the name, but I do shop at Trader Joe's quite frequently.
Kind of gives it away. And then what's on your shirt? What did you survive? I'm sure people want to know.
Oh, I survived the A55, which is I jumped off the Stratosphere Hotel. It's kind of like a bungee cord kind of thing.
No kidding.
A lot of fun.
It's 855 feet?
Yeah.
Woo! I did the one at Circus years ago, and I don't know how many feet that is, but I'm sure the Stratosphere is a lot higher. But hey, when you're up that high, it's all the same to me. I mean, it's such a weird feeling, isn't it?
It's not like I would have survived if it was 847, right? Or, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that and skydiving I did pretty close together. I enjoyed both of them.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. You just love life, and you'll do anything. There's nothing you're afraid of that I know. So you've done it all, like I said earlier: acting, directing, writing, producing. Although I do want to correct one thing. I do a show called Belly Up, which is a trivia game show where we drink and have fun, and you can catch that on my YouTube channel or on Facebook. It's a series that's up there, and the very last episode we put up there featured two actresses from Jeff's movie that I was in, Krista Flanagan and Adrienne Wilkinson. Krista has done a lot of things: Mad Men, Mad TV, a lot of stuff. Adrienne Wilkinson was in Xena, Princess Warrior, right? If I got that right.
That's just
Right? Is that right?
It's Xena Warrior Princess. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
Xena
all right.
Warrior Princess.
Anyway.
Anyway.
I'm a Z-Knight. I have to speak out for the Z-Knights.
Yeah, please. Thank you for correcting me. Anyway, they were playing, and we were talking about the movie, and I said Jeff directed it. He did everything but direct it. He was also acted in it as well. But Peter Paul Basler directed that, and I want to give him proper credit. My apologies, Peter Paul. And he was in. He directed the series that you got an actress from, Natalie, right?
Yeah, he did second unit for that's right, Z Nation.
Z Nation, right?
Yeah, Natalie Jan-Jorenlark is also
Right.
in The Pragmatist. Yes.
And you said that because I couldn't say her last. But I've been drinking. Usually I'm good with that. So here you go. You started out just always, I guess, doing what you wanted to do. I won't insult you by saying you didn't have a plan. I think it's better than that. You were open-minded to whatever came your way, whatever was your muse at the time you followed, whether it was writing or directing or producing or acting or putting things together, whatever it was. But one of the things I was so impressed about early on was, as I said, walking the walk. You did it all in that film. And you wrote a song and you rapped. So for those out there who are aspiring artists or artists in their heart who haven't gone forward, I don't want to be cliche, but inspire these people. How did you have the confidence to do all of it? Because I'm sure there are a lot of people who just want to do maybe one of those things or one or two. Like I always just wanted to be an actor. I didn't want to be a host. It came to me and I couldn't turn it down because it sounded like fun. And then I kind of learned on the job how to do that. And I'm not even sure I know how to do that to this day. They said, hey, I mean, a couple of hosting shows later, but they said, you want to go around the world and drink and meet people? How do you say no to that? Right. You know? So, but what inspired you to do all those things you did? And how did you do them so well, really? I'm kind of envious.
Thank you. Well, you know, necessity is the mother of invention, right? So, you know, you move out to LA and you learn, you get humbled very fast if you're paying attention, right? A lot of people come out here, myself included, you know, you hear intellectually how hard it is, but then you think, yeah, that doesn't apply to me, right? So you come out here, you're gangbusters and you're gonna conquer, and you get humbled fairly quickly, and you learn that you have to, in my case anyway, that you have to adapt, right? So acting was the main thing I moved out here for. I did have ideas about becoming a writer someday and writing about things that kind of meant something to me on topics and that sort of thing, which is very prevalent today. But yeah, when it wasn't happening fast as an actor, you know, how can I adapt? I looked at the entertainment field as this impenetrable force field, right? And I got to attack it from all these different angles, and I have to be mobile. And the expression didn't exist yet, but I have to be fluid, right? If there's an opportunity here, seize it, you know, take it. Jump it. Don't be afraid to fail. Fail differently is a saying that I live by. I failed a zillion times in my life, but I've only failed the same way twice, X amount, right? So I'm gonna try something new and something different, and I'm not gonna be afraid.
When you rapped in that movie, and it was really great. I mean, you had to write it, all of that. I mean, where does that come from? You could say, yeah, you had to adapt to the writing. You had to write your own project like so many people do, like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. I know they had been working before. It's not like they came from nowhere, but so many actors, create their own projects, but very few of them also rap. I mean, you did it all. I don't understand. Where did you discover this musical talent?
Well, I mean, I have a terrible singing voice, right? I mean, now with studios and technology, I can be passable, right? But, you know, Walking the Walk was this no budget documentary where I didn't have, if it was a bigger budget, I would have never thought to do it because I would have paid someone much better than me and much more skilled and much more experienced, right? But since that really wasn't an option, I wasn't going to hesitate to dive in and give it a try. I've been a lyricist, you know, in terms of writing lyrics for songs, poems for years. So that portion of it wasn't new, right? So maybe the rap component was, but again, I just wasn't afraid to try. I mean, I had seen, I'd liked the rap Lose Yourself by Eminem. And there's another one from Cypress Hill that I can't think of the name of off the top of my head, but it was in that genre of rap that I thought would go really well with Walking the Walk. So and here's another thing, you know, for artists out there, a lot of times artists won't do something unless they're guaranteed of the result. And that's a recipe for doing nothing, right? So as I'm writing this, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I don't know if it's going to be any good. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find the musicians to put the music to it, but I'm not going to let that stop me from doing the portion that I can control and getting started, right? And writing the lyrics and coming up with the beat in my head. And then, you know, one thing leads to another, and I meet some musicians, they're into it. They set the foundation tracks. And then I meet these other musicians who laugh at the idea of me rapping, and then they hear it and they're like, "Oh, wow, that's actually not bad," you know. And and they help finish it, you know, and make it great, and it works, you know, really well for the movie.
You had a comment from Teresa, who just said, "I love that idea. Fail differently."
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Tree. So let's move on because we have some pictures to show. You also started hosting a show called Film Nut. So that's yet another talent, and you were so good at it. And one of your guests was writer-director James Gunn, as it says right in front of us. And you could see his credits. But also, after that, Guardians of the Galaxy. You got some really good names on that show. How did you get into hosting?
That's a good story. And again, talking about doing things without guaranteed for results, right? So what came from walking the walk? Did it advance my career? I can't say that it did. But one day I see this ad on Craigslist to be a co-host of a show about dating, relationships, and advice. And they want to cast one therapist and someone who's kind of got a background in psychology who could add a comedic element to it. So I applied for that portion of it because I have the BA in psychology. I've worked in mental health. And, I dabbled in stand-up for a little bit, and let me give it a shot. I auditioned for that, get along great with the guy who I auditioned for, follow up a few weeks later. He says, you know what, Jeff, I decided to go with someone else, but since you have a filmmaking background from Walking the Walk, and we talked about Orgasmo a little bit, I want to do this show about filmmaking. I'm not going to see anyone else. I'm just going to cast you for it.
How did you know you could do it? And even if you didn't know, as you said, how did you learn how to do it well?
Well, my focus was not on trying to be a host. It was just trying to be me and have conversations with these people. First
Hold on,
of all,
let me write that down. Just be me and have That's good advice.
It's like if I thought about being a host and not having any experience of being a host, right, I could have gotten lost and stressed in that. But again, leaning on the psychology background and my natural curiosity, I'm like, I'm just going to have conversations with these people like I've done all my life. I'm going to throw myself into, by the time I met them, I knew about as much or more about them as their family did. They, at least once or twice in an interview, I'd get this shocked look from the guest that, how prepared I was and how I knew what I did know about them. And again, like you, brother from another mother kind of situation, it is that curiosity. It is that discovery. It is like being a student. So many people during film that looked at me as like a film expert. No, I was like the student at the front of the class who got to have the one-on-one, with the teacher.
Well, that's why I love the name, Film Nut. You didn't say film expert. It wasn't this braggadocio kind of thing where you're saying, I'm the guy. You're a film nut. You just love it, and I think that's wonderful, really. And of the guests you had, we just showed a picture of James Gunn. And I mean, he exploded after that. Did you stay in touch with him?
I can't say that I have. I mean, I did, keep in mind, Film Nut was a while ago, a Film Nut shot from 2007 to 2012. I did, exchange some emails with him that he responded to, and he was, nice and friendly. But he was one of the few guests that I actually had on twice. And he was a great guest both times. Some
controversy with him. And he got fired from Guardians of the Galaxy for some tweets that people found offensive. I won't even pretend to know the whole story, but I know that it was I think it was maybe Mike Cernovich, a right-wing blogger who brought this up. And just for the record, Cernovich was a big proponent of Pizzagate at I think it was called Comet Ping Pong in DC, and child sexting and all that. So, I mean, talk about the pot calling the kettle black. But James Gunn seems to have recovered. I mean, even there have been others who have been, I guess, fired over tweets or have been embarrassed over past tweets. There's been comedians, actors, everybody. I think now we are probably finally learning that be careful what you put on social media because it's going to be there forever, right?
Sure. I mean, cancel culture. And I think we have to look at each situation uniquely. In James's situation, and again, I'm not friends with him, haven't exchanged any of these friendly emails in years, but in James's case, there were tweets from 10 plus or more years ago, if I remember correctly. He did a full-on accountability apology for them. None of this, I'm sorry if I offended you, but, type of situation. So he fully owned it. It was a long time ago. So he had incredible loyalty from the cast of Guardians of the Galaxy. Warner Brothers wound up bringing him on board after a time later for one of their projects. I think it's for the next Suicide Squad. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he directed it. It's coming out in 2021. Yeah. Even Kevin Hart, lost the Oscars for some tweets. Probably going to see more of that. And I know there have been CEOs of companies that have been fired and a couple of sheriff's deputies from doing things on Facebook or law enforcement officers. It's really, and I suppose you can scrub your past, but someone's going to have a screenshot of it somewhere. So think twice before you post, because it's not like saying something back in the day that
Right.
it's your word against somebody else's.
Right.
But I think there is something very clarifying, though, about that. You know, they say sunshine is the greatest disinfectant. To shine a light on who a person is, I think it's fair to say you take the entirety of what they've said and done over their years.
Right.
And if you find a trail of very similar comments, now I'm not talking about Gunn necessarily,
Sure.
or trying to be jokey and missing the mark and being offensive, but there have been people who there are dozens and dozens of tweets, whether they be racial or misogynist or excuse me, racist, not racial, or misogynist or offensive or whatever. Then I think you could say this person is probably that. And thankfully, we do have a record, because just like back in the day, you never heard of people, and I'm talking about years and years ago, who would be discovered for lying on their resume because there was no internet. You'd have to call the school or whatever and say, does this person have a degree? Now everything just about is on the internet. So I think in one way it's good, because then you could base someone, like I said, on the entirety of who they are, not just their tweets, don't get me wrong,
Sure.
or their social media presence, but you choose to do that. It's not like you're at a bar and you're drunk and you say something. I mean, it takes something to type it and then hit send, you know?
No, absolutely. Yeah. And
Let's move on to another guest. Let's see the next picture up, because we have you have a really good story about this gentleman. Tell us.
well, that's Sam Witwer. I had him on around the time he was starring in the show Being Human.
Right.
A lot of you guys might know him from the voice work he does, and like Star Wars, The Clone Wars, or Star Wars, The Force Unleashed. And it had been about 10 years since I had seen him. It was a great interview. He hung out afterwards. He talked to me and Brian Gramo, the founder of the Stream.tv, the web network that it was on. So I see him online at a supermarket, and I recognize him, but I'm thinking to myself, you know, is he going to recognize me? You know, do I say something? You know, do I not? I'm kind of, and as I'm fumbling, and it took me a couple of seconds to be sure it was him, he sees me out of the corner of his eye. He's with a buddy. He does a double take, and he's like, Jeff.
That's
like,
nice, isn't it?
Whoa, yeah. He's like, how are you, man? You know, man, yeah. I'm like, you remember me? He's like, yeah, the show was great and blah, blah, blah. And we're talking like two kids who hadn't seen each other since high school, and just a nice, friendly guy. It was fun.
I love that, because there are people in Hollywood, just like there are in all walks of life, by the way, that are both good and bad. Oh, excuse me. Yes, I mean, that's true too. People can be good and bad, but I just mean in general. It's no worse in Hollywood than anywhere else I've ever been, and I've been around the world. You have some people who just aren't pleasant, nice, warm, friendly, and others who really are and go out of their way. And I think like attracts like. And if you want to be around good people, be a good person. And I think that's a way of speaking it into existence, getting those kind of people in your life. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm very grateful for our long-term friendship. As you said, I think of you as a brother. So thank you, my friend.
Oh, thank you. You know,
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there was one, Sam made a self-deprecating remark about his own work on Being Human, right? Which was a show about a vampire, a werewolf, and a ghost being roommates, right? It sounds like a joke or something, right?
Sure.
But, you know, in it, his character struggled. He was the vampire, and he struggled with the idea of having to need blood to survive. And he did his best not to suck human blood. He wanted to live off of animal blood because he felt it wrong to eat humans, right? And again, he made light of it, a light, fluffy show. And I was like, for me, I saw it as a metaphor for, you know, vegetarian and veganism eating, right? About maybe how not needing meat, you know, yes, we need our B12 and certain vitamins that you would have to get supplementally, but it made me think, you know, it helped, and it contributed to the path I'm on in terms of, you know, my diet and what I eat and don't eat and so forth.
Well, what are you, a vegan now?
That made him feel good. I would say I'm whole food, plant-based. I don't eat a lot of animal, but I aspire to get to vegan. I'm on that path. I eat very little though.
How do you not eat bacon? Oh my God, just the smell of it transforms me into a wild beast.
Hey,
I
let me
just
tell
love
you,
it. I can eat a pound of it.
long before I was anywhere close to being vegan, I'd given up bacon because, you know, I've been into health, you know, for a minute.
That's why you'll live forever, and I'll have a heart attack soon, I'm sure. But what a way to go out. Look at my face. Look how orange or red or brown, wherever it is. And I have nothing on it. I just been in the sun because I have a convertible, but it looks like I have some kind of makeup. And I swear I don't have anything on my face. Maybe it's the computer. Let's look at that next picture, Yusuf. Jeff, tell us about this other show you hosted.
Okay, I'm glad we're going to get to this. So this was Destination East Brunswick. It was a lifestyle show in East Brunswick, New Jersey. So I was going around and checking out all the different things you can do. And similar to what you said in your intro, you know, I knew the people who were producing this, and their initial objective was to cast an expert in all things East Brunswick. From East Brunswick, New Jersey, was an expert who knew to A to Z. And I gently, you know, because I knew them and I didn't want to, like, you know, force myself on them or whatever, but I said, how about the idea of going the opposite way and casting someone who knows nothing about it, but who's discovering it for the first time, and the audience can discover it with. And I'll do my my research and all that kind of fun stuff. And I sold them on the idea of that, and they went for it. And that particular place was a French bakery. That episode was in a French bakery, and I was being shown how to cook a crepe. And I had a nice sit-down interview with the owner of the bakery, who was from Russia. Fascinating woman. And yeah, the show was a lot of fun.
To me, you could have hosted any show because you are curious, you're intelligent, and you have great on-screen presence. So I don't know if you want to do things like that, but I'm sure other opportunities will come your way. By the way, if there are any questions for Jeff Schubert, filmmaker, any comments you want to make, let's get to them, Yusuf. I'm gonna move on to the thing we did together, not Walking the Walk, which we did. I had a small part on that, but The Pragmatist that you wrote, and we spent hours and hours talking about. And I had suggestions, maybe too many in some instances, but it's just great to talk with a fellow artist about not only the material but the process and how to approach it. That's what I love about it. I don't get off seeing myself on television or up on the big screen. I have to admit, early on, it was fun for me because it was so impossible. I just thought there's no way. Why would someone ever choose me, of all the talented people out there, to put on screen, whether it's the television or movie screen? And so I looked at it as if I was staring at a unicorn. Even though it was me, I just couldn't imagine that I set out to do acting and I didn't start till I was 30, and I actually achieved some of that. So when I was on 90210, I mean, I just couldn't believe the original. I was watching it, and it was just so fascinating. You had these icons. It was like I was in a dream, and I didn't belong there or something. It was really wild. But since then, and around that time, it's really been about the work for me. I enjoy it. So talking to you about the script and the scenes and breaking down the acting problems we have and solving them, that was really fun for me. And shooting it was as well. But tell me, when you were doing this, when you did the Pragmatist, we even talked about the title, among other things, what inspired you to come up with this script and to make the movie?
Well, interesting. I was supposed to take a trip to Vegas, and I couldn't go because I was sick. And sometimes in life, I've got this little trick I like to do, not all the time, but sometimes, when life throws me a curveball or a setback or something I didn't expect, I'm like, okay, let's write something or do something creative that I would not have done if not for this setback. So then all of a sudden I appreciate the setback because it created the opportunity to do this creative thing, right? So that was part one. Part two, in a lot of the scripts I've written, if not all of them, but most of them, I'm always thinking of my boy, Jack Maxwell, because what he said about me, I think double of him. It's like, it boggles my mind how he's not more famous than what he is. So I wanted to write something to feature him in, that he can be the lead in. 10, 15 years ago, if I had written this, I would have written it for myself. But now a little older, a little bolder, a little wiser, he looks like a movie star. I look like the commissioner of the NBA. So I figured, let me do something for him. So there was that portion of it. I had just gotten finished watching Dexter again, rolling through it. That's one of my favorite shows. And I love that show, but there are things that kind of in my opinion, could have maybe gone in a little bit of a different direction. So I took Dexter, a few other shows that I like in that genre. I thought of my guy Jack, created a character that I thought, he would just hit a home run with. And that was the start of it. And when it was done, I said, if Jack's excited about it, and if Peter Paul Basler, who's got a bit more directing and producing experience than I do, if I can get those two excited about it, I'll run with it.
A lot of people don't understand the behind the scenes part of it. And thank you for those kind words, my friend. But to cast a movie, you put out this thing called the breakdown, and then people respond on their own independently, or agents and managers. You got Natalie from Z Nation. You got Krista Flanagan. You got Adrian. You got these people who had been working quite a bit. Peter Paul, who was director on Z Nation, second unit stuff. And you got Gregory Itzin from 24. I mean, you had quite the experienced and talented cast there.
So Adrian was a previous guest on Film Nut. Hadn't spoken to her, talked to her, any kind of communication since her appearance, which is many years ago. I think Yusef might have a still of us together. I don't know if he does that. Maybe he can show it with Adrian Wilkinson. That's with Peter Paul Basler, the director of The Pragmatist. So I reached out to.
Yeah, let's go through some of those pictures while Jeff's talking, Yusef, and you could describe them, Jeff.
Sure. So that's Natalie Jen-Jorenlarp on, let's see, your right, and Krista Flanagan on the left. So Adrian, I reached out to her on social media. She did remember me. She did say she'd be willing to read the script. Loved it. Agreed to set up a meeting with myself and Peter Paul. I walk in, and it sounds like a compliment, but it may or may not be. As soon as she sees me, first words out of her mouth is, "Oh my God, you look exactly the same." This is from like 10 years. Now,
how is that not a compliment?
If she thought I was good looking, it was a compliment. If she didn't, but no, it's a compliment. It's a compliment that I haven't aged much. So that is good. So so she was on board, and then she led us to Krista. Krista Flanagan was a friend of hers, and she responded to the material right away. Natalie through Peter. And those are the main parts.
Yeah, but how about Greg from 24?
Greg from 24. So Peter Paul Basler, if you look him up on IMDb, he's directed quite a few things, and he's directed Gregory Itzin. Gregory Itzin was one of my early guests on Film Nut. I got to interview him live, so he remembered me from that too. But yeah, Peter had worked with him in a couple things.
It was great work with him. I did one episode of 24, but he had a nice run on there. And what a professional actor and a good guy. I mean, he just shared things he was going through, and he didn't even know me. But I think you can connect this to someone as characters, and then you could do it as a person as well. And I was enjoy those experiences. They're just wonderful. So this movie, The Pragmatist, we talked a lot about it. When I was filming it, I put out a couple of stills. I'm being interrogated by someone who I won't give it away, but maybe she tries to stab me in the back a little bit. That's one of them. How about another one, Yusef? That's okay. So that's behind the scenes, sort of. That's
right.
The camera that was shooting my point of view, or maybe dirty over my shoulder on Krista. And then we have, I think there's another couple, right? Oh, I'm a bartender in the movie, or I shouldn't say I pretend to be. I suppose I am in one way, which is interesting with the Booze Traveler angle and all. And that's some spooky lighting there. And then I don't know what that was. I don't know what that was about. Somebody took a still on set, but I look like a stone cold madman in that one, Jeff.
Well, you got a lot going on. You do have a lot of subtext, right? You do have a rich history, and basically this is it's a vigilante story about someone who's pragmatic about the world we live in and will do whatever it takes, to make things right, and if you agree with him, you'll probably like him. If you disagree with what he's being pragmatical about, maybe you'll have issue with it.
Reminds me of a movie I saw when I was a kid. One of the furthest places, or the furthest place I ever traveled when I was a kid, I was, 11 maybe? 11 or 12? I came out, oddly enough, to Phoenix. That's why we ended up moving out here, from Boston for a judo tournament. I was a little kid, and it was a big tournament. To go that far, of course, would be. And our sensei wanted to give us a break and took us all to a movie. And well, I forget where it was. Doesn't really matter. But it was Death Wish by Charles Bronson. And I don't know if he was doing some kind of psychology there about being, killers, about taking this tournament serious or what. But he's a great guy. Mr. Dickey was his name. And but the movie itself, the conceit behind it kind of reminds me of The Pragmatist.
Good. Yeah. And, your character obviously gets involved. His character gets involved, with the CIA. The CIA thinks he can be a great resource for them. His character, thinks the CIA can be a resource for him. So there's a cat and mouse between, who's using who, where's their common interest, where do their interests diverge, where's the corruption lie. And, you have, I wrote it for you, so it's not a surprise, but you and the character have so much innate passion and conviction, and belief. I feel like, this character, kind of superhero-ish can really, be an extension. I mean, you're a brilliant actor. You don't need it to be like that. But I really feel like this character can be, an extension of you and let you live out your fantasies. And just so the audience knows, yes, it's made as a short film, but the idea will be to submit it to film festivals, get some recognition, but also Peter Paul Basler and I are going to be pitching it as a TV series. And since The Pragmatist has Rap Jackson, I've been working on what's called the pitch deck, or the Bible, like we call it in the industry. And that's kind of the paperwork that goes along with whatever short film you have to describe what the characters are, what the episodes might look like, what future seasons might look like, and so forth. So
let me ask you a couple of things. For those who are familiar, they'll know this, but give me both the elevator pitch and the one-liner about what do you think it is?
Okay, the elevator.
Jeff, hang on for 1 second.
Sure.
Surprise phone call here from my mother. She doesn't know I'm going to take this live.
Okay.
Hang on a second. Hey, Mom, you're live on my show, Jack's Place, Virtual Cocktail Hour. Do you want me to call you when I'm done, or do you have something to say to everybody?
No. I was just going to talk to you about tomorrow, so call me when you can.
Do you want to say hi since you're live?
No.
Say hi. Say hi. You're friendly. People, no one can see you. Just say hi to everyone.
No, Patrick is in the hospital. I don't feel good.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll call you right when it's over. You all right?
Yeah, I'm okay.
All right. That's my stepfather. She's talking about Patrick. I'll call you right when we're done in about 10 minutes. And
Okay.
you sure you don't? Because I talk about you all the time and say how wonderful you are. You want to just say hi to Jeff at least, who's my guest?
All right. I'll say hello.
No, say it now. You're live. You're on speakerphone.
Hello. Jeff, is that you? Are
Yeah.
you there?
Yeah.
I am here.
Okay.
And, I don't know if you remember, I met you once at the Actors Studio, and it was very nice to meet you.
Oh, okay. Well, Jack's always the guy to get things going. He's our social climber here, so.
That's not a good thing to be a social climber, Mom. I'm just ambitious. That's all. I like doing what I do. I have a lot of passion. I'm going to let you go before you tell baby stories.
Exact opposite of me. You're outgoing and I'm the introvert, so.
Oh, that's okay. It's a good balance. All right, Mom.
All the energy.
All right. Nice talking to you. I'll call you later, okay?
All right.
Give me 10 minutes and we'll wrap this up. Bye-bye. How funny.
You're stepping on heads. You're climbing over people.
I know, right? I'm slaying them like Game of Thrones or something. Anyway, go ahead. Please finish your thought.
Sure. Well, you were asking me about the pitch. So I would say betrayed by the system and those he cared about, a formal special ops soldier, David Foran forms an army of his own to carry out his vigilante brand of justice.
I love it. Which one is that? The elevator pitch or the one-liner?
It's a little longer for a line, so we'll call it the elevator pitch.
So what's going to be on the poster?
Well, the poster for now is one of those shots that you already showed. It's you in the bar, right?
Oh, okay.
But I think we'll let the marketing and art department come up with something better. But that's kind of like the placeholder. So if you go to IMDb, that would be the picture you would see, the one of you in the bar.
And where can we find The Pragmatist? Asks Jonathan. Yeah, when's it coming out? I'm curious. I don't even know.
Sure. That's the reason I'm on here, to put me on the spot right now.
Well, I waited 55 minutes in before I asked you when's the movie coming out.
So yeah, it's in the finishing stages of post. So the picture editing is done. We've had visual effects added to it because there were some things we couldn't shoot live. So we had to CGI them, if you will.
Maybe
And
look younger, I hope. No, actually, this is what I look like. I told everybody before you came on, this is me. I have a ring light, no makeup, no powder, no nothing. I'm in shorts. I just put this on because, and by the way, apologies to not only Don Johnson, but fans of Miami Vice. I didn't realize I was trying to accidentally impersonate him. I didn't mean to. Actually, it's summertime, and this is what I wear sometimes. So yeah,
So-
I'll try to stay away from the Don Johnson poor impersonations next time. Again, apologies to Don Johnson. I think he's great. I think he's a wonderful and underrated actor. Do you see him in Knives Out? He's great in everything he does. But moving on, go ahead.
So cast and crew will probably get to see it by August, and then maybe to the public, we'll have to, focus and figure out what our distribution strategy is going to be. Before I forget, though, speaking of the outfit, is the top button of your shorts buttoned? I couldn't tell when you stood up at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, why?
Okay, because it looked like it may have been open. I wasn't
I
sure.
just got a fat gut hanging out. That's all. Maybe it popped the button. Hey, listen. So the movie's coming out in August because I'd like to see this thing.
Well, I'm saying cast and crew will probably get to see it in August, and then in terms of distribution to the public, we'll figure that out.
So we're gonna have a premiere, as they say, with the cast and crew.
I don't know if it's going to be virtual or in person. We'll
that's
see
true.
how things are going, but.
So how about if some people watching this get a preview of it as well? I mean, I know I can't share it personally with them, but maybe I tell you what, maybe we'll adjust that. If we have a screening in public and if it's safe to do so, maybe we can invite some people watching now, huh?
Of course, yeah, that'd be great.
How do they get a hold of you to send you an email to ask you further questions? And then we're going to take some live questions, basically, from people. We have some questions for you. But how do people get a hold of you, pal?
Sure, they could get a hold of me by thepragmatistshort@gmail.com.
thepragmatistshort@gmail.com. Yusuf maybe can type that up in the meantime. But we have some questions for you. So there you go. Wow, that was fast. Yusuf, thank you. thepragmatistshort@gmail.com. Ask Jeff Schubert anything you want to ask him. But in the meantime, we have some questions. What are they, Yusuf? Put them up there. Let's see them. Jeff, did you work with Andrew Miller on the show Dexter? I actually graduated him in 1985 from Racine, Wisconsin.
Oh, hey, no, I didn't actually work on Dexter. It's just one of my favorite shows. And how it became my favorite show was I interviewed one of the writers, co-executive producers, Tim Schlattman, was a guest of mine on Film Nut. And again, like I was talking about before, I like to prep. So before he came on the show, that's when I watched every episode to date of Dexter up to that point and just fell in love with it. But yeah, no, didn't work on it, but I did interview Tim Schlattman. Fun interview.
Thank you for the question, Carrie. Anyone else asking questions for Jeff Schubert, filmmaker? Anything about the business, the writing, the directing, the producing, the rapping, anything. He does it all. And by the way, we want to support local businesses. The one I choose here is bigmarble.com. They make wonderful ginger beer. If you want to support a local business, let us know in the comment section and we'll talk about it. Rick Ponzo, is there an audition for Miami Vice? You look marvelous. You wise guy. There's no audition for Miami Vice. It's been over since the 90s. I don't know why. I guess I like outfits a little bit like this. And I love Don Johnson. I mean, I know a lot of guys, they admire him to the point of trying to look like him. I mean, he was the coolest cat in the 90s, no doubt. But he's a really good actor. I got nothing against him, but I wasn't purposely trying to look like him, by the way.
I think you've got your next auction item, Jack.
What, the jacket, the shirt, or a picture of me looking like this?
Or anyway, one of the above.
Not that there's anything wrong. I guess whatever makes you comfortable. You know, that's the funny thing. Even people who dress nice or look sharp or have style, I never understood why people would criticize fashion, let's say. If that's not what you want to wear, don't wear it. I don't get it. And again, it goes back to same with the color of your skin. Why would you say, based on someone's color of the skin, that they're less than? I don't understand. And it's not just an American problem, by the way, with white skin versus black skin. In India, they have the caste system, as you probably know. And people with darker skin in India are treated worse. I just don't understand that mentality. And I truly don't understand it. I'm not saying it's evil and we shouldn't do it. That I agree with, of course. But I don't get why. there's so many other things, like someone's actions, for instance. And that's what I love about movie making. You can express yourself, and it without it being a morality tale, of course, but you can say, this is how I feel. What I'm saying is, if you really pay attention, oftentimes, maybe not with the studio blockbusters because they're hamstrung by the dictate from the studios, but I think especially with independent films, which is why I love them, you get to know the filmmaker a little bit, who he is or she, their mindset and what they're trying to tell you beneath the surface, the subtext, if you will. There's a thing when an actor is reading lines, that's the text, but how they play it, what's going on beneath the surface is called the subtext, obviously. And I think for a filmmaker, they don't get to do that unless, of course, they put their personality into the movie with the kind of film they do. What the statement they make inside of it, without, of course, hitting someone over the head with it. It still has to be enjoyable, a movie to watch. You have another one coming up called Age Appropriate that we were talking about, and it's a really interesting story. I thought when I read it, I was attracted to it. This older guy is dating a younger girl, 50-something to 20-something, and people are saying you shouldn't do it. It's not right. Her father doesn't want them to date, of course, which maybe I'd be in the same position. But then she has a horrific accident, and then the guy has to decide, does he really love her or not? I'm not going to give away the rest. But even that itself, I said, that's like Jeff. That's like Jeff, that we're faced with, would we do the right thing under the circumstances? Tell us about that for a minute. I really love that one.
If it's okay, I want to jump in and steal a little bit of the psychology portion of myself, because something you talked about with acting.
Sure. Take it back.
So you talked about, subtext being such a huge, important part of acting, right?
Sure.
The subtext, the nonverbal, that's what, separates someone who's just regurgitating lines from a real actor who's really feeling the part and getting into it. Well, from psychology, we know an extremely large portion of communication is nonverbal, right? Neuro-linguistic communication is the study of nonverbal communication and how important it is and what it means and so forth. So yes, and I remember one time I had Renee O'Connor, another actress from Xena. She played Gabrielle, Xena's sidekick. And I was talking to her about how into her part she was and how many simultaneous emotions her character was feeling at one time, and how if you're acting, if you're trying to be up here in your head with it, and you're trying to just hit directorial notes, okay, now I've got to be happy, sad, whatever. No. The emotions that overlap each other happen too fast to intellectually do it, to creatively do it. You have no choice but to be in the character, to have that subtext present, to be able to laugh and cry at the same time, to be angry and happy at the same time, to have that overlap. In Age Appropriate, there are some of those moments, especially between the lead character, once again, that I wrote for Jack, and the lead female character, whose name is Tiffany. So now we live in an era where, shaming is not considered to be a good thing, right? And we're getting more and more political correct. And yeah, sometimes maybe it does go too far, but I defend political correctness. In fact, sometimes I find that a lot of people are against political correctness until it's their group that's being attacked, and then all of a sudden, hey, what are you saying that for, right? So yeah, no, sometimes it can go too far, but in general, there's a good thing to it, right? And so we're out of shaming, but yet society sometimes will still shame the mismatch of the older guy with the younger woman. So I wanted to set up a scenario where you have this guy who's dating this woman for all the right reasons. It's not about a midlife crisis. It's not about, these people are just into each other, and what happens and what they go through and the judgments. And, he has friends that are trying to encourage him, but Jack's character, as Jack is himself, is a very thoughtful person, wanting to do the right thing. So he questions himself about doing it. And, it's fun. It's, for me, it's keeping busy. It's utilizing this great talent that I have access to, in Jack Maxwell, and, trying to stay proactive during these times where we're all pretty limited in what we can do.
It's a tale as old as time. Two people who love each other and someone tries to come between them. It goes back to Romeo and Juliet, right? And however you tell it, you can put your own spin on it and what have you. And you have with this particular thing. And then what you introduce, the obstacle, so to speak, that we either overcome or that it overcomes us, is interesting. I can't wait to be a part of that if we're going to do that. I know that with the virus going around, things are limited, filmmaking, all of that, Hollywood. I was supposed to be in LA right now pursuing my craft in whatever way, either hosting a show or film or television, and things are different now. And maybe the world has changed forever, whatever that means, of course, but we will adjust and overcome as we always do. And I think that's the beauty of art. It teaches us that we can do that. Art is meant to inspire. And then so many people want to step all over Hollywood and make fun of it and say it's full of liberals and sissies and they're just leftist and blah, blah, blah. But art, I don't care if it's Nashville, which is probably not full of those kind of people. I don't know. I don't care where art comes from. The people I admire most are artists because they freely express themselves in the way they have to. Now, of course, I also greatly admire single parents who are taking care of their kids and people who work so hard to feed their families. Of course, that's a different thing.
Scientists who find cures for diseases, right?
Yeah, sure, all of that. But I that's why I always wanted to be a quote, end quote, artist, because I felt I wanted to be able to, first of all, learn who I truly was, and then share that with the world, for good or bad. And the minute I let go of the judgment of that was the minute I was free, because as a kid, I wanted to be good at sports so the neighborhood would accept me. There are a lot of kids in my neighborhood. I grew up in the projects, as you know, a lot of kids out there playing street hockey or stickball or whatever else. And then you get a little older, you hit puberty. You want girls to accept you. You want pretty girls to like you. So you act a certain way. And then as you get older, you want to be hired. So you want to dress nice and you want to learn the right things to say and put on, get good jobs to put on your resume. You want to be accepted that way or whatever it was. But then when I discovered acting, when I walked into that first audition with no experience and actually got the part for some reason, and I learned through that process that it's okay to be yourself, and that actually the more you're yourself, the greater gift it is to everybody else, because they know then who you truly are. And it's such a great gift to yourself that you're willing to say, I'm okay being me. If you like it, great. If you don't, great. At least you know who I truly am. And I think art gives us that. So thank you for being a wonderful artist, my friend. It was wonderful sharing this last hour and 8 minutes with you. We went way over. I hope that's okay.
No, it's fine. And, for your audience, I'd like to share, I was having some second thoughts about this age appropriate project, in these times we live in with everything that's going on. And I do have a much deeper project I'm working on that has to deal with mental health called Choose Life, which Jack has read, right? Yeah. But I think it's very important during these times that you do carve out time for things that you're passionate about, whether it be art. And if it is art and you're not pursuing it professionally, that all the better, just as important for you to express your art if you have those leanings. But
absolutely,
whatever you are passionate about, it's okay to spend time doing that. It's okay to be present with your loved ones and enjoy that time. It's okay to not be stressed 24/7, whether it be about, the virus or the social issues that we're struggling with now as a country. Yes, you can spend time devoted and knowing what's going on with that, but give yourself permission to not be stressed 24/7. Give yourself permission to enjoy time with your loved ones, whether it be on the phone or in person or Skype, to be creative, to engage in a hobby, to read. I know we're limited now in what we can do, but it's very, very important for your sanity and to be effective in your communications, in your conversations about these things, to give yourself that permission to unwind, relax, and engage in things that fill you up.
I want to talk about one more thing before we go. This show is usually an hour. It went long because you're a fascinating guest. Everyone knows we have a great friendship. And if you're still with us, you're going to appreciate this very much, by the way. I didn't get Jeff's permission to talk about this. I think we're good enough friends that he knows where it comes from. In April of 2016, I was diagnosed with cancer. You really understand who your friends are and who loves you when you have a diagnosis like that and you announce it to the world. And there are some people I told early on that I was close to, and then we released it through Us Weekly magazine because I was going through chemo, and there were people in there that wanted to take selfies of me in the chemo chair. So I figured we should talk about it, let everybody know. Of everyone I know on Earth, everyone, Jeff took it upon himself to. And there are a few people who did it, and I'm grateful for everyone who even checked in with me. But he did all this research, sent me copious amounts of emails and information and texts constantly, because Jeff lost his mother to cancer. But that's not the only reason. Because he's such a good friend, the pain he felt, he said he wouldn't wish on anyone. We were in a parking lot when we talked about it, and he gave me a big hug and said he wouldn't wish it on anyone. And so from that, the thing he takes from it to go forward, and he could be very, he could be bitter about it. He could be, I guess he could respond in different ways, but he responded in the best way possible. He took this pain and transferred it into this great amount of energy, looking up research and facts and everything to help me during my cancer struggle. And it's one of the reasons I love you so much, buddy. And thank you.
Thank you, Jack. You mentioned my mother passing, and that's something I would never fully recover from. And I had temporarily moved to Las Vegas to be closer to my mom. I thought it was permanent. I saw she was getting older. I wasn't sure how many good years she had left. And, my career wasn't going in the direction I wanted to, and she was more important to me. So I moved there, and within a couple of months, she gets diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And within a couple of months after that, she passes, and it was an incredibly painful and traumatizing experience to go through. Still is to this day. I'm still living with it on a day-to-day basis. I decided to move back to LA and, get back at it, try to honor her doing this stuff. And I did a good job of, pushing a lot of people away from me. And at that time, Jack and I know each other 25 years, 24 years, and we're in and out of each other's lives to varying degrees over that course of time. And at that particular moment, we hadn't been excessively in our lives or whatever. But he was one of the handful of friends that, wouldn't let me push him away. And he was, if I remember correctly, was either just starting or really going good with the Booze Traveler, and was very busy. And he did always make time to check in with me, and cared and wanted to see me when he came in for a little visit. And that meant a lot to me, my friend.
Well, I think that a lot of people can say things. It's how you act that makes a difference. And I don't have to tell anyone who's watching this, of course, but I'll say it for myself. When there's someone in your life that you cherish, that's valuable to you for whatever reason, hold on to them, because it's the whole thing is gone in the blink of an eye. Thank you for being on the show. I'm sorry we went long. I hope that's okay with you. And I so look forward to not only seeing the movie, but doing stuff with you artistically for the rest of our lives, my friend.
Bless you.
To you. Cheers. That's Jeff Schubert, everybody. You know where to find him. And thepragmatistshort@gmail.com. That's how art is. It's messy. It's sloppy. It doesn't always end on a good note. I'd love to go out on a joke or something fun or light or happy. It is Jack's Place. We're here having a drink and a conversation, but that's life sometimes. But thank you for joining me just the same. And I'll see you right here next week. Cheers.